Hey everybody, it is Mr. Nightspyder, and today we're going to talk about more rollerblading stuff. In particular, I want to cover my experience, my thoughts on the Razor Colts. I don't have a frame on it because one, I haven't skated it in forever, and two, skates are so customizable and people change frames so much anyway that even when you're reviewing the hardware on it, it's more about the boot. We're going to take it apart and see what's good. I think a good place to start whenever you're doing something like this is with the liner. And this one comes with a stock Razor's liner. It's a very simple liner, and actually, in all actuality, I love the liners that have the elastic and no lacing system. I think, especially when you have a wide, a big foot, it makes it a lot easier to get in and out instead of having to relace and relace. But nothing special going on here. It's literally just material sewed on. And if you look on the inside, it's just one of those simple, those black foam inserts that really do nothing. But I would overall say that as a Bigfoot blader, when the liner is thin, it is nice. I have no quarrel with it. My biggest issue always is putting in like a Dr. Scholl's or an extra cushion in the area. But I didn't do that with these, and you'll see why eventually. But yeah, these are a size 12, 13 shell, and looks like the liner itself is a size 12. Now, something that I like is I love how they use these cuffs for virtually everything, right? Every version of razors you deal with, they use the same cuff. So let's take this bad boy apart, because we're gonna get to the meat and potatoes of these things today. So the cuff. Typically, these ones have just a spring holding it in. But I got these cuffs. I don't know if this is from my USD skates or another Razor model I had back in the day, but these cuffs have like a release system like that. The buckle, not the cuff, the buckle receptor anyway, has a release system, and I think that's pretty cool. Something that's notable is all the Razor buckles from the models I've purchased. I have a Genesis, I've purchased an SL, and these are my Colts, and they're always plastic. That being said, I never had any issues with it. None whatsoever. This is an updated version, so it actually, the same screws that are used on a lot of the mounting systems for the sole plates, they use the same ones here, so you can actually have one tool piece for everything, which is kind of nice. The only exception is this one. I kept a standard Phillips from one of the older Colts I had, because the buckle goes more flush. If you put this part in on this side, for some reason, it will hit the screw. So this is pretty standard. I know they've done a lot of revisions. I think this portion of the buckle protector is more robust, and the same here. But the cool thing with Razor cuffs is they're all interchangeable. Getting into the mounting system of the boot, if you look in there, you see the hole. Typically, when they use UFS with these, it's literally just that. And that is where I run into issue with the Colts, because I constantly feel this receptacle and the one on the front over here under my feet. I actually, I can't remember who, but I followed a page online on Instagram, and they suggested getting some of this furniture hardware to replace this to kind of minimize the footprint. However, it does work. I have no issues, but you still feel that pressure point. It's just unavoidable. For me, it is anyway. Now, looking at this boot, this particular boot has like some leather portion sewn onto it, and on the inside, there's like this material Typically, if I felt that there were pressure points, I'd put like some type of insole inside, like one of those cheap, thin plastic pieces, or I'd put a thin, those little $2 foot cushion support things you could get at Walgreens or Walmart, and that helps. But the issue I run into is whenever I wear these, the length is fine. The height is the problem. And it will literally, my foot will, this part right here, this portion right here, digs into my toes and foot. So I have this portion digging into the top, and then I have the pressure points from the UFS bolts in the bottom. And it's really unfortunate. I really wish maybe they would maybe open this up a little more to alleviate some of that pressure. Or I think another issue, and I could be having nostalgic type of goggles on right now. I've had razors back in the day when they were called super flats, and they didn't have this extra material, and this extra material adds a couple millimeters. And maybe that is what's causing me to feel the pressure on the top of my foot. But I mean, I could be wrong, but that it could be just, that's all I had to skate back in the day. But this boot is wide enough and long enough for large feet, but the height for me is the issue. It's always good to have nice strong laces. Like I've noticed that lately. Like good laces can go a long way on your skates, and also like securing your skates. And maybe this is adding extra pressure because that's being pushed down, and then that. I don't know. It's possible. It's all possible. Okay. Let's get this. I haven't taken the sole plate off in forever. You can see the boot there. There's the boot. Very, very minimal, very simple boot. Slightly raised heel, which I love. Very reminiscent of the... People say this is very similar to the Majestic 12 or the Valo. I disagree, because even the size 12, 13, the width is more favorable than the Majestic 12s or the Valos, whatever you want to call them. Because if I were to get a size 12 on the Rossies, it would squeeze this entire portion for me. But with this shell, this is a size 12, 13, so the shell ranges are different. But I don't have a pair of skates under me that look like I have this huge boat. And at the same time, it's accommodating the width that I need for a larger foot. So again, the big issue is here and the pressure points here. That's the problem. I think I might have a Majestic 12 boot here. Give me 1 second. I kind of do, but if you look at it, you can see, let me see here. This is kind of dumb, but bear with me. If you look where the heel begins and then bring it to the toe, the shell size is very different, right? Like to get a size 12, 13 fit on a M12 boot, you have to jump to their 13 through 15 size. And that's not good for anybody. See that? That's a huge difference in lengths. Huge. So yeah, if you were to ask me, I would say as a large foot person, if your feet aren't super tall like mine or thick, this is the way to go. This, on the other hand, wish I saved my money, you know? And a part of the problem is, I think the sole plate's part of the problem. I really think the sole plate's part of the problem. First off, the backside plate, for me personally, it makes it very hard to lock on for Royales or Torques. Now, back when I got my first pair of razors, they were called super flats. I think at their first they were called flats, and then they were called super flats. Now, the reason that, if you look here, see if we can zoom in there. You see that line right there? Now, when they first had these poured, or the mold, whatever, that was the sole plate. Like if I were to cut that portion off, and then they were called razors flats. Then they extended the heel plate here, and then they call them super flats, right? And they used to have this backside plate that had a real deep groove. It went, you can see this isn't the way it was a part that started here and it would go over here. It was much higher, but the groove itself was deeper. And it was, in my opinion, better for locking on for Royales and torque grinds and Favres and stuff like that. So now back when this was called the super flat or flats, and you could probably see it here. You can see it there. There was 3 screws here and 3 screws here. I don't know where the third one is here. I'm assuming it's there where that scribble is. So you had 3 screws, 3 screws. You had the 2 that are here, and then you had 2 more right there. And you can see where they modified the sole plate. The sole itself hasn't changed. It's been continually modified. The cool thing about the old mounting system is all these screws, these tiny screws, went in directly into the boot. So you had boom, 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 boom. So that kind of, in my opinion, created less pain for me because it distributed the pressure a little more evenly. And you didn't have this bolt killing your heel or the bottom of the front of your foot. Right? So what they used to do is you would have a metal plate that would sit here. You can see how it's like that Z shape there. There's a metal plate that went there, and there's a metal plate that sat here, right? And then you would put on your frames, and they also had 2 metal plates. And then you would have 2 bolts on each of those metal plates, and it would kind of sandwich it. So the sole plate, the frame would be directly mounted to the sole plate, kind of like how them frames are, the sole plates for the them skates, kind of like that. And then this portion would be mounted to your boot, and you would not have those UFS bolts killing you. That was the optimal way, in my opinion, to have the Razor's Colt or super flat sole plate. What they ended up doing to modify it, as you can see, is they filled in all the crevices where the extra screws and the old mounting system would go. And they drilled a hole in it. they basically drilled a hole here. This H portion here used to be an adapter you would buy for your Razors, and it would sit where this recessed portion is. And then they would line it up with these bolts, and then they drill through your sole plate and your boot. It was very nerve-wracking. Back in the day, the Razors weren't UFS, so I had to take it to a local skate shop. Yes, that was a thing. I spent like 40 or 30 bucks for this kit, and this part was just like a washer, like a plastic washer that represented this receptacle. And they would line the frame up with your sole, with the mounts and the sole plates, and then drill through it, right? And then they would line this up with your boot and then drill through that. And that was the first time I got a taste of this. And that is just not the optimal way to do it, in my opinion. I wish they would put these here, or even get maybe some of these bad boys, put that there, put a receptacle, maybe put a little bit of a crevice so you could mount it. Hell, maybe I could just do that. Now that I think about it, maybe I could just do that myself. But then the problem is you don't have the additional bolts to secure the frame to the boot. Because now they're relying on a total of 6 bolts and then the 2 UFS, which sucks. But they should probably do that. Just get this little tiny receptacle, guys. Razors, get this receptacle, make it recessed into the sole plate, add 2 more bolts, so you have 8 total, so you have 4 and 4, and that would solve the problem. I bet this would even still sit. Yeah, look at that. There's an idea for your Razors right there. Problem solved. So overall, I think I would get a pair of Razor Super Flats if I could, with the sole plate old school and the backside plate old school, and I think it would fit fine. But as it is in modern times, this does not work for me. Again, pressure points here on the top, the heel, and underneath. So I guess I would say it would work okay for you if you have like a skinny foot. A wide foot I think would work. Thick foot would kind of work, but if you have a high, I guess arch they call that. If it's high here, you're going to have pressure points, and it's going to be a problem. But tell me what you guys think about the Razors Colts. I always think Superflight's in my head. It's the first thing I go to. Do you currently rock them? Do you have any problems like that? Especially a lot of the big foot people out there. We don't get enough love or enough coverage when it comes to these things. So thank you for watching. This is a Nightspyder Collector. I'm Mr. Nightspyder, and you watched one of my blading hardware reviews. Thanks for watching. Peace.